The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily represent those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting group. Access Fort Wayne is a department of the Allen County Public Library. If you or anyone you know might be interested in making a television show, please call 260-421-1250.
Welcome to the Kachmann Mind, Body, Spirit Show. I came straight from playing pickleball today. So if any of you wish to do that, take me on, give me a call. No, we'll talk a little bit later. Today's show is about osteoporosis and bone health. And that's one of the reasons I play sports, because to strengthen my body. After all, being 88 years old, no disease, no pills. I'm not bragging. I'm just an example. So building perfect bones, we should, because we want to avoid falls and fractures and not end up living in a facility or a nursing home. Osteoporosis is a childhood disease. A childhood disease. You know, I did some reading about this, and I didn't really realize it, but fractures don't occur until we get older. But the laying down of the bones and the minerals occurs at a younger age. You don't get the fractures then unless you're not active, and most of us get those as we get a day older. So a lot of us have misspent youth, and we don't harden our bones, we don't build bone structure, and we're much more likely to develop fractures as we get older. So we need to take advantage of the opportunity to build strong bones. For example, what the mother is eating and you're taking on as a child in the uterus will affect the amount of bone that you have as an adult. Yeah, so the peak bone mass, so it starts really at a very young age, is around early 30s or so. After that, we just lose bone mass as time goes on. And so a woman's peak, where she develops the most bone mass, is around age 18, and then it slows down on age 30, and after that, it's just loss of bone mass. So in men, about 2 years later, by age 30, you stop making deposits of bone. You're just taking bone out of the bank, out of your bone bank. Your bone bank is fully built around 30s or so. So a lot of the talk really is in science, and you read in the books and in this book here that is a good 80% in your genes. Well, I don't quite go along with that, because the gene theory of the origin of most diseases is slowly going down, like in cancer. It's slowly going down as well as what you do. So lifestyle, sex hormones, they'll say in the books about 40% difference. I personally think it's about 70-80% difference. So actual lifestyle is much bigger than just an expression of your genes. Your lifestyle is something that you can control, like, hey, pickleball. And but I don't suggest it for everyone. Not everyone has good enough balance or to play it. I'm just saying that there's something that I do, okay? And so there's hope. So what are determinants of bone mass, the most bone mass that you have? Peak bone mass. Genetic, we talked about that. 50, 60, 70. I think it's more like 30%. The hormones, which the increase or decrease affect your bone mass. There are other risk factors, medication you're taking, for example, diseases that you have, whether you're a man or a woman. There are differences because the hormones are secreted differently. Whether you're taking the correct vitamins, vitamin D, for example, and the nutrition, the type of food which you're eating. So what growth occurred in the womb while you were in the uterus. Most of the minerals and bones laid down is in the last trimester of the pregnancy. So the bone mass that you can have in the uterus or later on, if the mother has poor vitamin D and calcium intake, it's going to affect the infant. So the mother's womb overall health, her bone health will affect the infant's bone health. So midterm and trimester is when bones start developing, but most of the development occurs in the last third of the pregnancy, and they demand about 200 to 300 milligrams of calcium a day that should be available from the mother. So if there's a lower birth rate, for example, there's increased risk of osteoporosis down the line, even as a child, and much more so as an adult. The fracture rate will increase. So low birth weight is a high risk of osteoporosis, and the low birth weight increased risk of fractures as an adult. And then at 12 months or so, there's a great amount of bone growth the first 12 months of life. Yes, a lot of bone growth. So the body mass triples in the first 1 to 4 years as the most rapid growth, boys and girls. Yeah. Isn't that interesting? Until puberty, some boys and girls' bone mass may be different in races. By puberty is a very rapid bone growth, and the body is most responsive to bone growth, and most responsive to hormones, to calcium, protein intake, to exercise, and the weight bearing. Your body reacts to that the most, and puberty is a growth spurt in mineral deposits and bone growth. The mineral buildup, the beginning in puberty, there's increased bone growth. Boys and girls, sex hormones affect them. The trunk accelerates in mineral deposits. So the 3 to 4 years in girls, age 11 to 13, there's tremendous laying down of minerals and bone density. The bone mass doubles in 11 to 13 years of age for girls, and 13 to 15 years of age for boys. So there's opportunity in these years. Are they exercising? Are they sitting most of the time? Are they texting most of the time? And not participating in exercise that has a tremendous influence and strength of the bones down the line. Much more likely to have a fracture if they don't do that. Much more likely to have a fracture years down the line. So which, speaking about opportunity, the fractures may not occur right away, but may occur years later. So your peak bone mass, the peak on the top, age 19 or so for girls, and 19 to 20 for boys. So are they exercising, eating the right nutrition, for example? What's their exposure to the minerals and chemicals? Very important in that age group. And genetics, like I said, they claim 60 to 80%, but I personally think it's probably more like 30 or 40. Are they maybe teenagers, maybe drinking a lot of alcohol? Are they smoking? What's the rate of physical activity? They all play a role in your deposit of your minerals and bone strength. In those years, for example, myself, I was playing sports all the time, every day. I'm playing tennis or running, and I was building my bone strength. So unhealthy lifestyles, the parents can't control them because the children, what they're eating or what exercise they're doing, difficult to predict. They found only 15% of the 9 to 13-year-olds meet the daily requirements of proper nutrition intake and proper exercise. 22% maybe meet daily requirements. 42% of the 14 to 18-year-olds are eating the right foods. Are they using the computer, the phones, the video games? Are they sitting all the time? Only 50% of the children exercise. Yeah. This is interesting. Just to go to a personal story a little bit, maybe a year or so ago, I was going to a fast food restaurant, not to eat the food, but to get some coffee, and enter where they park their cars. There's a little bar there, and I was walking to the door, and both my feet got caught on this piece of cement. You won't believe what happened. I did a complete flip, 360 degrees, landed right on my head on the sidewalk. Had a little cut up here. They took me to the emergency room, did a CT scan, examined me. No fracture, nothing. Almost unexplainable. A total 360. It's still in my memory. I think the reason is very strong bones. Must be very strong bones. No fracture here. And I have played sports a lot of my life. Maybe that's the reason. And but like I said, parents can't control the lifestyle. Are they sitting all the time? Are they exercising? And that's the difference in races. Whites are much more likely to break a bone, yes, and African Americans are less likely. It's a combination of things. It's not just what they're eating. It's a race-dependent thing. How much vitamin D are they absorbing? With black skin, they're not absorbing much vitamin D, for example. So it's a combination of many things. And kids that are smoking, vaping, for example, are affecting the amount of minerals that are present in the body. So there is age-related bone loss. Osteoporosis is largely found in older people, but the amount of bone that you lay down is determined a lot of times before age 30. So, but in menopause, women have increased bone mass because of hormonal changes. Okay, and a larger bone mass when you're young. So you're filling the bank. You're filling the bank. You are protecting yourself. Maybe that's what happened to me. Maybe I filled my bank many years ago. So three factors are related to bone loss. You increase in your minerals and hormones when you are young. And an increase of 10% of bone mass when you're young, 50% less likely to have a fracture down the line from a minor fall. To break something when you fall is not normal. Most of us are prevented for that if we have a full bone bank, okay? And so osteoporosis is a childhood disease that manifests itself later in life, like what happened to me. Interesting. And so what results in a low bone bank, low birth weight, increases osteoporosis as an adult, okay? Puberty, most important time for bone mass acquisition, okay? Rapid growth. Are you eating the right food? Are you exercising? Bone mass doubles between onset of puberty and young adulthood. Remember I said before age 30, what you do will increase it. Bone loss begins after achieving peak bone mass. So in the early 30s or so, after that, you're just taking money out of the bank, okay? But you can slow that down with good exercise programs, proper nutrition. So gradual, steady bone loss occurs with aging as we get a day older, and things get even more dangerous, as we get very old. Breaking a bone, you're more likely to break another. You break one, unless it's just, a huge old accident, something unpredictable. But if it happened just from your routine activities, you break a wrist, for example, you're more likely to break other bones, okay? And with aging, bone becomes less bendable. We're a little less fragile. We're a little more stiff. We have a little more balance problems, for example. So an arm or wrist fracture is a big red flag. It's a warning sign that other things may be coming. You're at risk for more fractures. There may be a cascade of fractures, one darn thing after another, especially if you have balance problems. I work on my balance, for example, on a regular basis. Yes, you won't believe what I do. Yes. Besides playing pickleball, okay, where I'm living now, there's a gym. And you can close the door and be in there by yourself, and they have mirrors. And I go in there and tap dance, sing songs, lift light weights, do some stretching. I do it 4 days a week. So I feel like I'm still at this tender age, 88, and I'm having less withdrawal from my bone bank. I hope to be doing this for many years. So a large international women's study called the GLOW study of 60,000 women involving Europeans, North Americans, Australians, and found increased fractures past menopause in women. And osteoporosis is generally can be a silent disease. It's happening, but you're not having any symptoms and you don't know about it and you are at risk. So, but a fracture can break the silence. All of a sudden, you broke a wrist, you took a fall. All of a sudden, you have a back pain from a light fall. So you may not, many times you may not even know you have a fractures, especially our spine, the vertebra will sink down a little bit and you have no pain whatsoever. It's quite common. You get an x-ray done and they find 3 compression fractures that caused you no symptoms, but it's a sign of osteoporosis. And so prevention is the gold standard. That's the goal. And there are about 2 million fractures each year. Females account for 29%, and men account for 29%, and females account for the rest, in part because their bone structure is more related to hormones. And so 1/5 of males, 1 in 11 non-white people have fractures, but the rest are white people. So white people get fractures more commonly. And what about fractures? Well, pelvic fractures about 7%, hip 14, wrist 19, spine 27, and the others about 33%. So osteoporosis, but the most significant are hip, spine, and wrist, and the hip fractures are the ones that are most significant, and they're costly. In 2005, we spent $17 billion on the health care for fractures. The top consumers in health care spent greater than 65% of the money. Medicare paid 20%, medical claims, 3 million fractures, and they're estimating will be in 2025 at a cost of about $25 billion. So it's having a significant effect on our economy and cost of health care. Hip fracture, though, is the granddaddy of them all. The granddaddy of them all. It's the most cost. And 40% of them occur at age 85 and over. So hip fractures really is what you want to try to avoid, and they're related to being unsteady, and unsteadiness increases as we get a day older. And 90% of hip fractures are related to a fall. 90%, yeah. Interesting. 1/4 males, and it is the most deadly of the three. One third of the people die following a hip fracture within a year. Yeah. So hip fractures are killers. Avoid them. Avoid them. So as we become more steady, as we get older, to avoid them is really the answer. And so spine fractures, only 20 to 30%. Only 20-30% have symptoms. The rest are solid compression fractures, and that's why measuring the height of people during a doctor's visit is important. You lost a couple inches, odds are that you have a silent, if you've had no symptoms, a silent spinal fracture. So you see some people walking around what's called a Dowager hump, kyphosis, where they are bent over. You see them, they have a cane or wheelchair or just walking along and still can walk, and they're bent way over. Though they probably have had the silent spinal osteoporotic fracture. So avoidance, you want to avoid that by building up your back. So most common spinal fractures are T11, T12, and lumbar 1 and 2. Once you have one bone fracture, you're likely to get more. So then you got to even be more careful. Wrist fractures are more common in the 55 to 65 age group, and a sideways fall is more likely to get the shoulder. The worst kind of fall is a forward fall, so that you want to be very careful. You're walking stairs, I always hold on the handle, always, every time. So if you have a home, for example, you may want to change your, sell your house and move to a different place where everything is one level. For example, stairs, you fall down the stairs, you may end up in a nursing home. So look at your house in terms of fall risk. I think that's a good piece of advice. And there's differences in families, and the man and the woman, whether they're older or whether they get children. If there's a lot of children, grandchildren living in the house, and there's elderly parents, you got to be careful because the kids get bump into an elderly person and throw them down the stairs or onto the floor. And childhood fractures, that is interesting. Childhood fractures are rising right now, statistically, because kids are less healthy. Maybe their parents are less healthy. Maybe while the baby was in the uterus, the mother was drinking alcohol, smoking cigarettes, or taking drugs, and that was changing the genetic script of the infant. What many of us don't know, and I didn't know till we read it, when we become pregnant, only 5% of our genetic script, the one that determines what we look like, the size of our bones, the size of our brain, the genetic script is written, only 5%. But it gives us a great opportunity because we can write the genetic script 95% by what we do to the child in the uterus, or how ourselves, what we are doing, that's opportunity. But if we bad habits, we're drinking or smoking and alcohol and drugs, for example, we can write a bad genetic script and result in a poor lifestyle. And so in America, unfortunately, we have sick care. We have sick care. I know that, being a doctor. Part of that should be preventive care. Prevention is determined by what kind of a soil that we are creating in our body. Our genes do not determine, for example, breast cancer, for example. They poured so much money, billions of dollars, into the gene theory of breast cancer. Then they find out no significant discoveries. In 2009, they finally changed it, and the National Cancer Institute created 12 centers of non-doctors, physicists. Each gave each center $15 million, and they are looking at health totally differently. You can check on the internet; it's on there. So the gene theory of breast cancer is that is 90% of people get breast cancer or let the breast cancer grow. For example, is their activities, what they're eating, how much they exercise, whether they're smoking, whether they're drinking alcohol, for example. Yes. So we have a sick care model. We don't have a prevention model. But believe me, I'm working on the prevention model. Just look at my YouTube shows. Go to Amazon, Rudy Kachmann, or Facebook, Rudy Kachmann, 1,000 TV shows. And I thank the library here and Andrew Carnegie for building it, and the library system now for paying for it, because this show will go to YouTube and spread really across the world. The nation of India has most diabetics in the world, and they can't afford to take care of it. You know what they're doing right now? They're taking my TV shows, converting it to other dialects, and the people in India can use their phone or their computer and learn how to prevent diabetes, how to prevent breast cancer. Remember I said about breast cancer? Since this month is breast cancer month, let's talk about it a second here. Is that 90% of breast cancer is from lifestyle. Teach the people proper lifestyle, and they won't get breast cancer. Those genes will not grow because you're not providing them the food. What determines fracture rates? Our age, okay. The race, for example, whites are of higher risk to have fracture. Afro-Americans have the lowest risk. Kind of interesting. since they probably have less vitamin D. But Hispanics are intermediate. But if you've had a previous fracture, the rate of bone fracture increases dramatically. The height and weight makes a difference. Your body mass index is related to bone density. It's good and the bad part. You weigh a lot as a child. You probably laid down more bone, but then again, you probably ate the wrong food to weigh a lot, and that would increase the risk. So it's complex. Usually with increased body mass index, you have less bone density. And if you're a tall person, you take a fall, you fall a longer distance, and the rate goes up. If you weigh less than 127 pounds, that puts you at a higher risk. But to me, it depends on what the habit of that person is. 135 pounds, 134 actually this morning. But if I have very strong bones, am I at higher risk for getting lower weight? I wouldn't think so. So it's complex. So family history is too important. If there have been a lot of fractures in your family, odds are you're at higher risk too, but the families a lot of times eat the same food. So it's complex. Diseases that more commonly have fractures: diabetes, ones with breast cancer, celiac disease, Crohn's disease, depression, early menopause, epilepsy, hyperthyroidism, rheumatoid arthritis, ulcerative colitis. All these people have higher risk of bone fracture. There are also medications that people are taking which increase the bone fracture risk. So keep that in mind. You might need to be more careful. You might need to try to become stronger without taking a lot of risks. If you go to this book, which I'll hold up now a minute here, Bone Health by Diane Schneider, she discusses in great detail. That's available in the library. You can go to Amazon and buy it used, much cheaper, as you see how I buy things, so I can give away some copies too. Alcohol, smoking increased risk alcohol for one thing, you're more steady, but it also affects bone growth. Smoking, which affects every cell in your body, affects bone growth. We have cruise control, normal bone remodeling. So every skeleton is remodeled by our biology in nature about every 10 years. The lifespan of osteoclasts are ones that break down bone about 3 weeks. Osteoblasts that build up bone about every 3 months. Every 7 to 7 seconds, there's some remodeling of your bone occurring in your body. So what you're doing will increase the remodeling and strengthening rate. And so 3 to 4 million new monocytes develop yearly in your body. Who needs to know these details, okay? 1 million sites operate in your body at any time. So we talk about individual cells, for example. So what about some shifts to overdrive? Menopause, there's decreased estrogen, and osteoclast breakdown of bone occurs much faster than osteoblast building up of bones. Certain medicines increase osteoclast breakdown of bone activity, how can you assess your bone health? you're visiting your doctor. You want to know what's going on. You should have a yearly visit to have a look, see what's your situation, okay? A good test is leg strength, standing up without having to use your arms. I was reading this and did it myself, and I had no trouble doing it. So maybe I play a lot of sports. So remember, I'm playing pickleball. And a blood test, your vitamin B test, fracture risk assessment, bone density test. You have a DEXA scan. That's a good one to help the quantity of your wrist and tools. And there's on-site, you can look at FRAX test is available online or a smartphone, and you can develop there your 10-year fracture risk, and it's different for men and for women. Some are taking medication and drugs, and it can affect the rate of fractures. Older females, 65 and older, they get a bone density test. See how dense are my bone. So more risk factors, increased risk of fractures. The bare bones evaluation should be an annual doctor's visit. The doctor should know any history of fractures. He should measure your height, review your medications to see if you're taking supplements, and maybe do a quadriceps strength test, see if you can get up out of the chair without using your arms. Get a vitamin D blood test, and a fracture risk assessment should be part of a doctor's visit. And you can do a DEXA scan, DXA101. It's a dual energy X-ray absorbability and bone density scan. It's a test that's done today. A bone mass can be measured by doing that, how thick are the bones. 68% of bone strength is related to that test, how thick are the bones. Mineral density decreases as we get older, which increases our fracture risk. Best predictor for a specific fracture. More typically, what's the bone density in the hips and the low back? They're the best predictors. So the DEXA means dual energy absorbability, two different energy levels of X-ray, calculated measure of mineral bone density. You might like to know that. How do you know if you need it? Females in their menopause, I think it's more important. But if you're doing preventative things, you may say, I don't really need that. But screening becomes more important when we're 65 and 70 years of age. They have what's called the T-score, is a compression of results comparing young adults and older people. It's called the T-score. That is explained in more detail in this osteoporosis book. It's quite complex, simple to read though in this book, and I'd have a look at it. And remember, there's a difference in what race you are. So diagnosis of osteoporosis. In 1994, the World Health Organization developed a score: normal -1, osteopenia -2 up to 2.5, osteoporosis 2.5 or less. So it's a test you can take, but this is usually, this is not solving your problem. I just assume as you're getting older, your bone bank is being emptied. I would do corrective maneuvers, which are pretty important. So what are good general measures for bone health? Exercise, be on the go, do things, and pick the exercise that you like, okay? That just walking is good enough. Do some squats, I think is important. So regular exercise is the best solution for the foundation of youth. Yes, yes. Use it or lose it. Fred Kash, K-A-S-H, of San Diego, is a fitness hero. He runs an adult fitness clinic, and he jogged into the 90s. He's a pioneer. You can find his stuff online. So he's suggesting 90 to 300 minutes a week of physical things you should do, many ways to find the one that works for you. We're all different. Just walking and dancing or tap dancing like me. Or pickleball, that's not for everybody. I just did this here because I came from pickleball. That's a fall risk there, so don't just start doing that. I just want you to know that at age 88, I'm still getting better. And pickleball is spreading across the world. So if you can do it, you might consider it. But it has some fall risks associated with it. So optimize your bone strength. Children to young adults. Michelle Obama, had a movement called Let's Move. She addressed childhood obesity, fast food, but I remind people that type 2 diabetes, which leads to many of these diseases, can occur in 30% of the thin people. So obesity is not the only problem. But I took my residency in neurosurgery in Washington, and went to a conference there, and I went to a conference there when Obama was president. And if you just look around the city, you can see obesity is a huge problem, but about 20% of the obese people have a normal metabolic system, okay? So, if you're sitting all the time, your bones are going to break down. If you're exercising, you're going to build them up. So gravity affects us. And for example, the astronauts, notice because they have no gravity, they develop severe osteoporosis. Mm-hmm. We're having gravipause. So if you're sitting, you're an astronaut, not doing things, you have gravipause, and you're going to develop osteoporosis and bone fractures. Yes. Jumping is the greatest gain in bone health. Yeah. But, you might want to hold on to something while you're doing it, but you can do squats while you're holding on. That's a good one to remember. So children should do about 60 minutes of exercise every day. So, but you can walk your way to fitness. So now we speak about 10,000 steps. People record it on their watch. But do balance and core exercises. And this is what I'm doing when I go to the gym. I some tap dancing, singing, and weightlifting, but I don't go above 12 and a half pounds. But I use them to strengthen my core. A good way to actually, the best preventer of falls really is to have good belly musculature. And what I do in the morning, listen to this. You lay in bed, raise both your feet in the air, and because I was having some ankle pain, I use my feet to count to 25. 1, and I use the other foot 2, then 3, 4, and I count to 25. So I'm moving and stretching. And you know what I noticed when I had been doing this about 6 months? My belly was like a piece of steel, and it still is. Yeah. So to develop good belly strength, and you can do it laying in bed. And if you raise your legs up like that, you can do a lot of exercise with your feet and legs, and counting the numbers keeps you from being boring. And maybe tell music, Alexa, play some Frank Sinatra music. I have some music going on. If you add music to your life, that really is very helpful to make exercise a little more fun. Bring music into your life. Best exercise program for osteoporosis, reversing it. Wall squats, remember I mentioned that. You can hold on and do some squats, or if you feel good about your balance. and a one-arm military press, leg presses, lateral pull down, so go to the side because you can fall to the side too. And seated row while you're seated, do some rowing, okay? Back extension, hold on to something and extend backwards. I think that's a good one. And good videos to watch to show you how to do them. That's a good one. http://www.citracal.com/best. Good videos to watch. That website is written in this book too. So you want to revitalize yourself, prevent falls. I think it's important, especially as you get that older, to do some of the things I was speaking about. And actually, if you go to Google and just mention the exercise that you want to do, right there, it'll be there like that. I think that's a good piece of advice. Just Google it and speak to it, and anything you want to know is there in seconds. I do it all the time. So let's talk about bare bones. Okay, advice. Young bones respond to move when exercise better. So kids need to be active, 1 hour a day. Adults can benefit. Brisk walking, decrease hip fracture rate. No for forward bending, more likely to have a fracture that is significant. So forward, be careful when you're bending down. Don't lift anything too heavy, okay? Don't use it, you lose it. Use it, you increase your bone bank. So fall-proof your home. Look at your house as different ages, for example. There's a time that multi-story homes or multi-story apartments are not for you. Okay, avoid stairs. A stair fall may put you in the nursing home forever. 85 years and older, 88, you have increased risk. So playing pickleball may be too risky for me. I'm thinking somewhere along the line, maybe a few months, I might stop. So balance is important. And I see in some of these gyms, including the one I'm in, they have this little half ball. I say stand away from that because I think that increases fall risk. A better way to do it is to increase your core. Remember I said about putting the legs in the air and writing numbers with your feet. I think is a good one. Nutrition takes a big bite out of fracture risk. What you're eating. Remember, breast cancer is 90% depending on your lifestyle, not your genes. There are 200 genes that determine breast cancer. What are you going to take? 200 drugs? 90%. And that's the reason I'm concerned a little bit is that we raise so much money in town here, pickleball and tennis, and it's a wonderful thing for breast cancer prevention. Then we sent it to Indianapolis for gene research. If we kept some of the money here, maybe to the library here. I'm trying to make the Maker Lab, which is now moving, into a breast cancer and diabetes prevention lab. Help me. Anybody wants to donate some money to that, give it to the library. Tell them you want the Maker Lab to turn into a breast cancer and diabetes prevention lab. That will spread across the world. That will spread across the world. I mean, but we'll see. That may happen. And what type of food should you be eating? Protein. A certain amount of calcium is lost, depends on the amount of protein you're eating. Yeah, because it makes the urine acidic, and we are losing some protein, but then again, we need protein for muscle building. So as we get older, we may benefit by increased protein intake to increase the strength of our muscles. So but then again, vegetable proteins intake has value too. Supplements, you just don't know what they're going to do. And look at page 120 of this book right here, because it's really, it details things more than I'm explaining. I'm just the beginning of your knowledge, just the beginning, but I think we all learned a lot. Carbohydrates and fat, too little or too much, can affect the fracture rate. Obese children increase fracture rate. Vitamins, fat, or water-soluble vitamins can have an effect. So this in Sweden, they increased the fish intake, and the vitamin A absorption went down, and fracture rates went up. Vitamin K decreases the risk of hip fracture, so that's important. Phosphorus is needed for healthy bones, but it's throughout, and no supplements are needed. They're throughout our body. Magnesium, 50% magnesium is located in our bones. Alcohol, no decent amount is healthy. The World Health Organization now showed, they used to think drinking 1 to 2 or 3 glasses of red wine a week is safe. I don't know. You may see me sitting there having a glass of red wine now and then, but for most people, it appears not to be healthy. I see, especially groups of women sitting a lot of times at a restaurant, and they're all having 2 or 3 glasses of wine. It makes them unsteady. For example, it may affect their bone health. You have to make your own decisions, but I worry about it. What are bone superfoods? Almonds, halibut, green leafy vegetables, and citrus fruits. The calcium absorption is inversely related to oxalate absorption. Again, this is explained in more detail in this book. Oxalates, we don't really, they're all in vegetables if I don't drink enough water. So I think drinking the correct amount of water is an important thing, because if you don't, the oxalate concentration increases, and that's the biggest cause of kidney stones. I can tell you about it. It's happened to me. So drinking a lot of water is a very healthy thing to do. So I think we get through my notes, but I would encourage you to also, this is the beginning of the information, learn some more information. But to me, lifestyle is the biggest determination of your bone health. You will decrease your fall rate if you exercise regularly. I suspect when I did a somersault that I didn't kill myself or my bones compressed, that nothing happened. It has to be a reflection of the things that I do. I didn't always eat right. My dad had a deli in New York. I know what bad food is, in that I survived it is because I think I changed. So you need to gather some information and change and evaluate the risk of things that you're doing. Take a look at your house and surrounding, and take a look at what's in your house. The kids, adults can one bump into the other to reduce your fall rate, because if you break your spine, you could be paralyzed, or you could have so much pain every day or develop a kyphosis where you're constantly looking forward in your fall rate. And a hip fracture can result in you dying within a few years. Matter of fact, people who break both their ankles have extremely high death rate. Within 2 years, the majority of them are not living. That is statistically known, but that does not mean it has to be you. You can be above that, higher than that, change yourself, or be a happy person, and which how you think, how happy you are has a tremendous effect on your health. And to get a DEXA scan or a T scan, I'm not sure that's necessary, but if you're breaking one fracture after the other, it might be a good idea to see if you can get to the bottom of it. Some of us have chronic diseases where fracture rates increase. I would think diabetes would be a common one. I would say 80% of the people living in this county, in this city, maybe the whole country, some cities and states more than others, diabetes rates are increased. If you have type 2 diabetes, you got osteoporosis. And to do something about it. Get rid of the diabetes. You can get rid of diabetes about a month, yeah, that easy. Look at my YouTube shows. My show after this today is a half hour on diabetes. And maybe while you're at it today, say a little prayer that the Maker Lab, which the Maker Lab is moving here, a great place. I like to turn that, I'd like to help Rudy turn that into a breast cancer and diabetes prevention center where you can walk into and through touch or books or pictures or videos, I will help design it to gather information. There'll be one central location, and I'm hoping that the breast cancer people would join us because it will take significant financing. There's cost involved. I'm going to contribute some money, but we need a major person to step up. And maybe you're watching this show and you want to step up. We'll even put your name on the in the lab. It's not about me. It's about your health. Why am I doing this show here? Because I care about you. I love you. I want you to play sports with me, dance with me, or pickleball with me. But I'm 100. But don't try the sport if you're unsteady. I just did this today because I wanted to hit a few balls at you to train you to be healthy and to live to be 100. And in reality, I did this whole thing because I'm a doctor and I care about you. I love you. It's my job. See you soon. Join us in this fight to good health, strong bones, strong muscles. I love you. Thanks for watching this.